family, it's time for a true look at your world. Let's get hooked up for Pack Therapy. Here's your hosts, Tim Donnelly and Graham Hill.
Welcome into another edition of Pack Therapy. I'm Tim Donnelly, Graham Hill, co-host here along with us. I have to admit, the optimism is waning. There takes more mental gymnastics to get to where we've been mentally with every basketball episode of Pack Therapy that we've done this year. Before we get there, please like, subscribe, go find your podcast wherever podcasts can be found and subscribe to this pod. We'd appreciate it. Tell your friends. Check us out on YouTube. Now, every single Pack Therapy this year, we've played the optimism game, right? Even going back to last week, right? Hey, if you got two top 10 opponents back to back and you have the ACC tournament, I don't know if it makes you an at-large team, but it completely changes the trajectory of your season. You have North Carolina on the road, you have Duke at home. Loss. Both of the very tough to understand variety. And now the escape hatch of winning the ACC tournament is still there, but it doesn't look likely at all. And it's harder to spin this one into, but they still have all these opportunities.
The escape hatch, I like that. Yeah, I mean, the chances of making the NCAA tournament, they are still present, but
the chance, not chances. There's one chance. You beat Pitt, that does nothing.
Chance, singular.
You have a chance. You have to go on a Cinderella run, which might be starting on Tuesday.
They have to run the table.
To win the ACC tournament, which is, with the way the ACC tournament is structured, it's a tall, nearly impossible ask because you're going to get more and more fatigued, and there's going to be teams coming off byes just waiting for you. This season, the optimism is gone. I held out as long as I could, Graham. I tried.
It's not over yet, Tim.
I tried to keep. We were down to the last regular season game, and I mean, I'm joking, but I'm not, right? Like, you have to laugh or else you cry. It hasn't been the season they anticipated. They've lost, 6 of their last 8. The only 2 wins coming a buzzer beater essentially against Clemson and Boston College, who doesn't scare anybody. And other than that, you haven't won the games you need to win.
But Tim, it all starts tomorrow on the road at Pitt. But
that game it really doesn't start with. That game is, you might as well call it a scrimmage.
But then again, I forgot that we run into this repeated narrative when it comes to NC State, where didn't we say it all started with Carolina on the road last Saturday?
If you want to,
it all started with.
I think it all started with
night.
Virginia Tech on January 20th. It all started really once they were 5-1 in the ACC and started moving in the wrong direction. In every game, it was a chance to get back on track, and they didn't do it.
Rinse, wash, repeat. Unfortunately,
it became that. So, let's talk about these 2 games. The 2 that we haven't covered yet here on the pod. Number 9, North Carolina, and then followed up immediately by Duke 2 days later. You're winning against North Carolina at home. At half, not at home. At half. That right there felt like your chance, right? It felt like your chance. And, I hate to put it this way because I really like Kevin Keats. The second halves left a lot to be desired in terms of the other team was making adjustments and getting better, and you were trying to hold on, right? There were little tweaks that I would have liked to have seen that just didn't come, and because of that, it did feel like, I described it this way on my show. It's the Frankenstein movie. It felt like NC State was sprinting, right, running, arms up, limbs everywhere, huffing and puffing, and UNC was Frankenstein walking behind them, but somehow they were making up ground, right? Because that's how it works in the horror movie. You're running through the woods and you're dodging the trees and you're oh gosh, and you're tripping and you're standing up and you're running. Meanwhile, Frankenstein is behind you, just dun, 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 but somehow he's catching up on you. And I was going like, run in a different direction, right? Turn around.
Go side to side.
Bob and weave, grab a stick, fight back. Like, do something. And instead it was just a slow hawk down until eventually you went on a 10-minute stretch where you didn't hit a field goal, and North Carolina pulled away, and the game ended.
See, I'm glad you feel that way, because in the second half, I also was under the impression that it felt like NC State tried to start running with North Carolina a little bit as far as pushing the tempo and transition, fast break, basketball, and it just seemed like they kind of fell into North Carolina's trap, and in the process ran themselves out of gas a little bit. That's just my perspective. And yeah, it certainly doesn't help that you shot 22% in the final 20 minutes. I mean, that just can't happen.
Yes. And the second half, one of my most frustrating things ever, and it said more about the NBA than college, is it's a make-miss league. And I'm going, well, not. Yes, it is. Like, if you're making shots and you're making difficult shots, it's going to be significantly easier for you to win games. But it's also about the quality of shots you're getting, and it's about who's taking them, right? An open three for someone that the other team wants you to shoot an open three is different than an open three for DJ Horne. And we've now seen that, where other teams are choosing to stop DJ Horne, and the rest of the step up isn't there, or if it is, it's from somebody like DJ Burns, who leaves things in other parts of his game to be desired. It's you need to have counters, right? If they're going to take away your leading scorer, where do you go next, and how do you maximize that? The counters weren't there. They made a move. Imagine you're playing chess, and Hubert Davis or John Shire lean in and go like, Bishop to E4, and then he moves the piece, and then State was like, we're good. We would like our pieces to stay where they are, and just leaned back. It's like, no, you got them. What? How are you going to counter Bishop to E4? So when and this was very obvious with the Duke game, when they said, hey, DJ Horne's not going to beat us, they went, we have DJ Burns down low, and then Duke would do something else, and they would go, we have DJ Burns down low. And then they attack DJ Burns when he's playing defense. We have DJ Burns down low. We're going to get Jared McCain open for a three in transition. And Keats is like, I think you know where I'm going with this. Yeah. We're going to DJ Burns down low. And I'm going, well, something else, because what you're doing was allowing Duke to get back into a comfortable lead.
I always like bringing up football analogies whenever we do this podcast since you played football. And it almost feels like it's the 4th and 1 you line up in Wildcat. It's like, what's coming. It's just a matter of our O-line versus your D-line. Another similar thing that I kind of thought was shown in the two games against North Carolina and Duke. As you said, other guys didn't step up. Think about in the North Carolina game where R.J. Davis quietly had a solid game, but DJ Horne and Jaden Taylor in the Carolina game were the only NC State players that scored in double figures. Nobody else stepped up. Meanwhile, on the other side for North Carolina, I thought Elliot Cadeau was the MVP of the game because he got some big baskets. He was crucial in that little run that North Carolina was able to put together to finally start stretching away. And then similar in the Duke game, DJ Burns has his best game of the season, no doubt. Offensively. Defensively, still a little bit of a
lot to be
liability.
desired rebounding.
DJ Horne struggled. Nobody else really stepped up to help DJ Burns. Meanwhile, on the other side for Duke, when Kyle Filipowski scored his first points at the 16-minute mark of the second half, you know who stepped up? Sean Stewart. I thought Sean Stewart was the MVP of that game for Duke.
Can I push back on DJ Horne having not a good game against Duke?
Sure.
I think DJ Horne did the thing that a guy in he still made 50% of his shots. Didn't take many because Duke made it a priority to stop him. So he was comfortable being that gravitational pull that was taking guys over to him. I thought DJ Horne had a selfless, not selfish, selfless game. And part of his gravitational pull is why DJ Burns was so effective. Let's look at that scenario because that one's frustrating too. I'll use a football analogy, an NC State spring practice analogy.
Okay.
There's a clip going around of Grayson McCall. Looks like 7-on-7. He's playing quarterback, and I didn't see who the defensive player is, but one of the defensive players, a linebacker, is signaling to the defense, going like they're going to hit the backfield, the running back out of the backfield. He's gonna leak out of the backfield.
No, we're not.
And yeah, Grayson McCall looks at him and goes, No, we're not. stupid. And then he throws a touchdown to Noah Rogers, another transfer. And there is something in knowing what your opponent is going to do, and there is a confidence that comes with knowing that they don't know what you're going to do, right? And that's obviously a very obvious football example that's kind of funny because he called him stupid. But I'm looking at the Duke game. DJ Burns, you mentioned, had his best offensive game, scoring the basketball. Did not rebound well, and I think at times was just catching his breath on defense. But Duke knew what you were doing. Duke knew it was DJ Burns in the post. And do you know what they didn't do? They didn't send doubles. They didn't sell out to stop that. They knew what you were doing, and they were going to allow you to continue doing it. That should be sending off red flags, right? That should be sending off alarms going, wait a second. Why do they want us doing that, right? It's if a divisional rival is trading you a player, why are they comfortable with this player staying in their division? You have to think about what they're thinking about. And the fact that you kept going to DJ Burns, and he was having success. He shot over 50%. A lot of twos, obviously. That's kind of his game. But I'm going, if Duke is comfortable with us taking these shots, should we be comfortable taking these shots? And part of it was they were trading Jared McCain threes for or sometimes 4-point plays for DJ Burns twos, or they were trading multiple possessions on the opposite side because they knew they could get offensive rebounds, which they got in spades with DJ Burns on the floor, and they almost wanted to make sure Keats didn't take DJ Burns off the floor. It's the chess, right? It's the next step. It's the 3D chess. It's the risk, and you have to play the entire board.
Looking back on it, it makes sense for the frustration, especially Duke letting them getting up. Well, Duke didn't let them, but NC State getting up to a 9-0 lead to start, and then with how well NC State, I thought NC State in the first half did a great job of keeping Duke outside of the paint.
Both games, UNC and Duke, the first half, I thought, maybe there's some stretches in the Duke game where it wasn't true, but especially in the UNC game, the first half, they not only belonged, they thrived. It was, as the game went along, it wasn't the same team, or actually it's the opposite. It was the exact same team from the beginning to the end, and it allowed the opponents to figure it out, which is what you don't want to do, right? You want to right before they figure you out, you want to change. Right before they figure out, you want to pivot. And unless there are certain games where DJ Horn is just, the basketball looks like a hula hoop, and then it's just about getting him the ball in as many different ways as you can. But
9-0 start, great interior defense. DJ Burns getting off to a hot start. The only place that NC State really lacked in the category in the first half was defensive rebounds. That's where Duke made them pay. That's what kept Duke in the game. And I say all that just to put in perspective that NC State still found themselves trailing by 3 at halftime against Duke.
Yes, one possession games at half are. I think they played Duke even in the first half. I think they were the better team against UNC. Again, it's the second half that gets me. Let's take a quick break. I'm going to actually try to be optimistic when we come back.
Okay.
There's silver linings. I know I said I couldn't do it. Let's try to be optimistic. Let's look for something they can build off of coming up next right here on Pack Therapy. Back here on Pack Therapy, where we are all, I don't know if that name has been more apt than it is right now.
Yes.
Let's lay down on the couch and vent some feelings. Optimism. Do you know what I was really impressed with in multiple games, specifically the Duke game?
What's that?
Diarra.
Yeah.
Mo Diarra. I said this on my afternoon show, The Drive on 99.9 The Fan. I feel like Mo Diarra has been holding out on us, right? It's like, you can shoot the three? Well, where the heck was that in November? Like, every 3 weeks, this guy adds something new to his game that I get excited about. This is the optimism, by the way, for NC State. There's individuals we can be optimistic about. Mo Diarra, at the beginning of the year, I was like, oh, he's a good rebounding big. And then it's like, oh, wait, he can defend the rim a little bit.
He can move.
Then it's, wait. He can play alongside DJ Burns because Diarra can actually get out onto the perimeter a little bit and pick and roll situations hedge. And I'm not saying he's keeping up with guards, but there's a little bit of lateral quickness there. Oh, look at this. Oh, look at this. Oh, look at this. Now he's shooting threes. Now he's a big guy with range.
Yeah, Mo Diarra in that Duke game added 10 points and grabbed a team best 7 boards for the NC State Wolfpack. Yeah, it feels like Mo Diarra has kind of been holding out on us. I thought that his key role all season was just going to be the rebound getter. But as you mentioned, he starts feeling confident enough where he's taking some threes, and it's like, oh my gosh, am I watching Armando Bacot from North Carolina knock down a three? Like, that's just kind of the feeling that I had. But Diarra,
he played the most minutes on the team against Duke.
Yeah.
That alone is something that kind of frustrates me because the minutes have not been consistent. But that trust is something crazy. 3 blocks? Come on.
I had a thought, then I lost it. So I'm gonna go to a play that I'm optimistic about. Jaden Taylor. Jaden Taylor had the best start against North Carolina that I've ever seen. I mean, all 12 of his first points against the Tar Heels came from downtown. Matter of fact, they came from PNC Arena. I mean, he was just pulling up, and he could not miss. And even in the Duke game, he had some crucial moments where he had some big buckets that kind of felt like they was going to get State back in the game, and then Duke just turned around immediately and counterpunch.
We hit 2 minutes and 30 seconds into this second section where I said I was going to be optimistic before I've gotten to a point where I am. You touched on one of my biggest pet peeves of the year. I'm going to read the point totals for Jaden Taylor over the last, let's see here, 6 games, okay? Against Clemson, 12. Against Syracuse, 10. Against Boston College, 15. Against Florida State, 24. Against UNC, 22. Against Duke, 2.
So I guess when I said the buckets he got,
I'm gonna read the point total or the minutes totals. He played 19 minutes. He played 29 minutes. He played 26 minutes. He played 23 minutes. He played 28 minutes against UNC. Against Duke, 14. Jaden Taylor was your second best offensive player for the 2 games going into a must-win, gotta-have-it Duke game. He had 24 points in 23 minutes against Florida State, and then he backed that up with a 60% shooting, 22-point night where he went 5 of 7 from 3 against one of the best defensive teams in the ACC in North Carolina, and then he's going into the Duke game. I'm thinking this guy's role, right? I'm frustrated with how inconsistent the roles are on NC State. How some games you're playing 20 minutes, some games you're playing 5, some games you're playing 35. We've seen it with O'Connell. We've seen it with Dennis Parker Jr. We've seen it with DJ Burns. We've seen it with Mo Diarra. Pretty much everyone other than Morcell and Horn has been flip-flopped in minutes a bunch of times this year. But the one thing I like about it is if somebody catches fire, because you're fluid with your minutes, you can feature them, right? So Jaden Taylor, after the Florida State and North Carolina game, which had been building, right? He had 3 straight double-digit scoring games, a 15-point game against Boston College, right into an electric game or against Florida State, into an electric game against UNC. He was shooting in those 2 games 9 of 13 from 3. That is somebody that I'm like, all right, if you're going to be fluid with minutes, this is beautiful. If you're going to be fluid with minutes, there's the hot hand to play. And he played 14 minutes, got 1 shot attempt, didn't take a 3, and got 2 points against Duke.
I didn't even realize he had gotten 2 points.
He had 2 free throws. That's it. 1 rebound, 1 assist. And what's the point here? What's the point here? It is very, very tough for me to understand where that's coming from. If you're going to be the team that is fluid, if you are going to be the team that doesn't have like, hey, every first media timeout, this guy comes in and he plays till the 3rd media timeout, and then we put our big back in for the last 5 minutes before half. A lot of NBA teams are that way, where like teams know exactly who's going in and when they're coming in and what's going on. If you're not going to be that team, if you're going to be the team that's like, whenever I feel like it, I'm going to move guys around, then when the guy is hot and you're playing a big game, you play the hot hand. And Jaden Taylor didn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, if you're going to be a team that doesn't want to miss 15 consecutive shots,
Maybe play the guy that made 9 of 13 from 3 the previous 2 games.
Yeah, I love how we said this is going to be an optimistic segment. We've just circled back around.
Well,
I'm
optimistic in how Jaden Taylor's playing. It's frustrating that he's not out there because Duke made the decision. It's almost like they said, we're going to have to stop a DJ. Let's pick one. They picked DJ Horn. And then they go on this long – NC State goes on this long scoring drought where it's essentially 10 minutes and change where they don't get a field goal. And if they're choosing to stop DJ Horn, right, and outside of a few scores in history, like a defense can choose, you're not going to be the one to beat them, especially if they're letting other guys kind of get open. They needed someone to be the guy that stops the run when DJ Horn was being, put in a phone booth by Duke. That could have been Jaden Taylor. Could have been. Very, very frustrating to me.
Can we be optimistic about DJ Burns after he scored a season-high 27 points on 63.1% shooting, also dishing out 4 assists?
You can be optimistic about what you just said, but you also have to point out that at times it was 12 offensive rebounds for Duke against 11 total rebounds for NC State, and DJ Burns was the guy patrolling the middle getting out-rebounded. You have to acknowledge that also there were times he was standing under the bucket on defense catching his breath.
Yeah.
Everyone, it's why the plus minus has become a stat. It's why WAR in baseball, and it's why the VORPs and all these weird stats become a thing, because you can't just count offensive stats. It's a sliding scale. If you're giving up 15 second chance points on offense, and then you're scoring on defense, and then you're scoring 15 points on offense, that's a net 0, right? It's not DJ Burns putting up 27 points against no impact. It's him putting up 27 points minus whatever he's giving up on the other side and whatever he's giving up in rebounding and extra possessions. So, yeah, feel good about the fact. And by the way, I get as excited as everybody when he catches the ball on the post and he has a one-on-one and you see him putting the shoulder
start to rise out of your seat a little bit,
and you know what's coming, right? It's going to be the spin move baseline and then the soft touch, and the defensive player knows what's coming, but there's nothing you can do because his shoulders are as broad as a Mack truck, and he dances like he's dancing bear. It's exciting to watch. It was really fun to watch. It was almost just as brutal to then be at the other side and see him, getting out rebounded by a Sean Stewart, by a Filipowski. At times, some of their perimeter players were going down there and out rebounding him. It was frustrating.
One last optimistic player, Breon Pass. Just because it feels like whenever Breon Pass does get into the game, he has the mindset of, I don't care what the score is, like I'm at least going to get my highlight. And it feels like that Duke game, NC State had one final push where he came in, made a three-pointer with 6:07 to play to put NC State within 7, but unfortunately for NC State, they couldn't get any closer. So Breon Pass, junior guard, will he come back next year? I don't know. If he does, hopefully he takes a little bit of pride in how this season went for him and the team as a whole.
It is impossible to know who from this team is going to be back. If this were 20 years ago, I think the most exciting thing in the program would be Dennis Parker Jr. I loved the way he played at times in the first half of the season, and his minutes have completely dwindled. And if this were 20 years ago, it would be, hit the gym. You'd expect him to try to build off of that first half and correct what happened in the second half that got him out of the rotation. In 2024, and this is without knowing, Dennis Parker Jr. as like a personal friend, I don't know what he's thinking. The transfer portal is going to play a factor, right? Yeah. I mean, other schools would be stupid not to have a little birdie tell him, oh, that second half was probably brutal. That wouldn't happen to you here, even though it might. So Dennis Parker Jr., Breon Pass, Mo Diarra, there's a lot of questions about, some players that I think have shown some things. But it's the transfer portal. You got to re-recruit everybody.
You hope Breon would stay, given that he is from Reidsville, right up the road, North Carolina kid. But
yeah, but I played with guys, at my college football, University of Delaware, who were from Delaware, and it was their dream to wear our uniform, and they did it for 3 or 4 years, and then they were like, actually, I think it was my dream to be on the field wearing the uniform, and if they weren't going to do it, they found somewhere where they could go, put together a highlight film and have some fun their senior year. And by the way, even our coaches were like, "Hey, love you for the effort the last 4 years. Sorry that your career didn't break the way you thought it would, but anything you need, right? Like there was one guy who actually transferred to a Division III team, which was nearby, and a bunch of us went to go watch him. He played like a Saturday game when we played on a Thursday. We went to watch him, and he had a bajillion yards. Played both ways. It was like, wait, this is like he's playing a video game. It actually looked really fun. And I'm not saying Breon Pass is going to do that. I'm saying he could find a mid-major school somewhere where he could be a 30-minute kid.
North Carolina Central.
Yeah, and I'm not going to put.
I'm not putting down Central when I say that.
No, I'm just saying he could be a 25, 30-minute player, and that sounds. Sometimes it's like when I got to state, I was going to play for my hometown Power 5 ACC school. I was going to go to the NBA draft right from it, and it was going to be everything. And then by the end, you're like, I put in a lot of work on this jump shot, and before I go and sit in a cubicle somewhere, I want somebody to see me make some jumpers. So that, by the way, not rushing anyone out of town, not doing it. I'm just saying it's 2024. You got to have that conversation. State plays Pitt Saturday, regular season finale. I said this earlier in the pod. Might as well be a scrimmage. Right? Do whatever you think you have to do to sharpen the skills you need to go full David versus Goliath in the ACC tournament. If that means playing a deeper bench, if that means lighting it up from 3 and just working on it, like whatever your slingshot is, sharpen it against Pitt. And if you lose the game, guess what? No one's going to be like, oh my gosh, you're 17-14 rather than 18-13. Your resume is what your resume is at this point. It's about sharpening the skills you need to make a Cinderella run. It's unlikely, but it's your only tool in the tool bag.
You can't have a late effort like you did the first time you played at PNC Arena, or else you'll just fall short, sort of like what's happened in these past couple of games. And you got to get up front. That's the one thing that we can give State credit for, is that they've gotten off to good starts. It's just a matter of they haven't been able to put together a full 40-minute basketball game since, I think, the Virginia game.
Yeah, probably.
Boston College. But again, Boston College.
We don't count that. That's it for Pack Therapy, everybody. Enjoy the ACC tournament. I'll be at the ACC tournament, so
you enjoy it.
If you see me, say hi if you're down there or up there in D.C. Until next week, have a great week, everybody.